I remember one of the most disturbing experiences that I've had as a pastor. It happened during a marriage counseling session with a couple who came from another church. The husband admitted to beating his wife and said that he had no choice but to punish her because she would not obey him, and that this was necessary in a godly marriage. And that was a sobering reminder of how misreading Scripture can lead to very real abuse and suffering. We're looking today at a portion of the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 5, beginning with verse 22. It is part of a larger section that describes domestic relationships. Ephesians is ostensibly written by the Apostle Paul, though some scholars believed it was penned by a disciple in the apostle's name. But we'll call the writer Paul for this discussion. Paul begins the section with a thesis statement: be subordinate to one another out of reverence for Christ. A single verb in the Greek, be subordinate, carries on through the next three sentences that we find in our English Bible. The emphasis here is on mutual submission, that in a healthy marriage, each partner seeks to outdo the other in caring. It reflects the larger vision of God's kingdom, where love connects all members. Verses 22 through 24 are one single sentence in the Greek, but some major English Bible translations split that sentence with a section heading right down the middle. And this violates the grammar of the original manuscript, and it makes no translational sense except to highlight the wife's part in mutual submission. Paul says in verse 23 that the husband is the head, the kephale, of the wife. This has been interpreted to mean authority, that the husband is boss over the wife. But if the writer intended that, he more likely would have used another Greek word, archon. The metaphor here is that the head is the source of nutrition for the body, just as the husband is to nurture his wife. And verse 24 then goes on to apply the call for mutual submission to the wife's half of that responsibility. Now, in this passage, there are two admonitions to wives, and then there are 5 instructions for husbands. Perhaps Paul thought that the men might have a harder time hearing this message. First, husbands are called to love their wives. There are multiple Greek words for love. The word used here, agape, denotes self-giving, unconditional love. Men are to devote themselves to their wives' welfare as Christ gives himself sacrificially for the entire church. This call for reciprocal submission and mutual service in marriage contrasts with the norms of first century Greco-Roman culture. The philosopher Demosthenes said, prostitutes are for pleasure, concubines for cohabitation, and wives for bearing male heirs. Seneca said, women are married to be divorced. Paul challenges the one-sided patriarchy of his time when he says, near the end of this passage, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. When originally written, Paul's mutually respective vision for covenant partnership transcended its Iron Age setting, and these Spirit-inspired verses still provide a recipe for married happiness.